The English Standard Bible, now with even more English. Hello everyone. Today we're going to look at this interesting edition of the English Standard Version Bible, a translation that I sometimes neglect because it's so ubiquitous that it's almost part of the furniture of my biblical life, as it were, but deserves more respect. And I had been looking for an ESV, one that was readable. I found a few copies, bonded leather or imitation leather versions at my local thrift, and they were unsatisfactory to me for the size of their print, the transparency of their paper, etc. But it is a translation that I like and would like to use. And because I tend to, I almost always at this point use my Bibles along with the Book of Common Prayer and the lectionary therein, which sometimes we'll have readings from the apocryphal books, including right now in the fall when I'm recording this. I wanted to find an ESV that included the deuterocanonical, the apocryphal books. And so I know Cambridge has released a few versions of the ESV, I think, that have the Apocrypha. One of them is the Diadem. Now, this is the version that does not have the Apocrypha. When you get birthday money, you're supposed to spend it, right? I found a couple of books, found these two books, and was drawn to the Diadem because, there are hundreds of reviews that you can find on YouTube about this Bible, but I was only able to find cheaply the non-Apocrypha version. And I'm only bringing this up because I'm going to use it to compare the ESV that I did find with the Apocrypha. So anyway, yes, I'm aware that Cambridge has a ESV with Apocrypha that is nice, but was somewhat unsatisfactory to me because of the size of the print. It's an 8-point font, I believe, or 8.1. I think they describe it as, which together with the references and all of that make for a crowded page and a difficult read for me, even though it's on very nice paper. And the font itself is a lovely enough font, just very crowded, difficult for me to read personally. So I found this, which is a British publication. It's produced by the Society for Promoting Christian Knowledge, S.P.A. It came out in October of last year, 2021. And this one is described as completely anglicized. And we'll get into that in just a moment in terms of what that means. Just compare. Sorry about the jiggliness of my camera. I'm experimenting with different setups to try to record in an area of the home that I don't normally record in. It's a little bigger in the height and width than the Diadem, the Cambridge, but not overly so. The dimensions, according to the publisher here, for this Anglicized ESV, 9.5 by 6.5 by 1.5 thick inches. 2.25 pounds, they say, and the font is described as 9.5 point, 9.5 point font, which is noticeably larger. And without the center column reference, which certainly can be useful, but for a reading Bible, sometimes makes it for a cluttered page to me. And I find that I'm easily distracted, and the more cluttered and busy a page gets, the more difficult it is for me to read. So I like the spacing. There's lots of wide open space here, not just in the kind of poetic works. And by the way, double column, same as the diadem. Notes at the bottom, very, very, very lightly annotated here at the bottom, but no references to muddy up the page, as it were. I find it to be a pleasing layout and a pleasing font and a good size font. However, the paper is rather on the thin side, so you get significant ghosting. It is line matched, as I believe also the Cambridge diadem is. So that helps a bit. But the jury's out on how I like reading from this because of that. That's the main drawback I can see. I like the very large chapter numbers. Books all start on a new page. All caps and bolded section headings, also useful, and I appreciate. I like that the book lays flat from Genesis to Revelation. Didn't go quite far enough. It has very little in the way of extras. There are no book introductions or section introductions to the Testaments or the Apocrypha. There's a general introduction to the ESV and to the ESV Apocrypha at the beginning, kind of essays. But in terms of for each individual book, no, nothing there. In terms of extras at the back, there's a table of measures, weights and measures, and then these maps that are on the same thin paper as everything else and grayscale, and they kind of look like when you're in the office and nobody's watching and you sneak off a print job. This the kind of work here. They will do, but not the most attractive maps there are. There's several of them. Very lovely liner here, end paper that echoes the front cover. This did not come, as far as I can tell, with a dust cover. I didn't see it on their site with a dust cover, and my copy did not come with it. And as you can see, I believe silver and black head and tail bands. This particular copy was beat up a little bit in travel or in storage and was at discount. These aren't super easy to find in the States. Again, it is a British publisher. The ESV, certainly everyone's familiar with, but the publisher has this little description. The ESV Bible is an excellent version for detailed Bible study, but one that also possesses a beauty, clarity, and dignity of style that makes it superbly suitable for private devotion or for reading aloud during public worship. So what does completely anglicized mean? Well, I wasn't sure, so I did a little comparison. So using the Cambridge Diadem ESV, which is the 2016 text of the ESV, which is also the basis for the 2016 ESV, is also the basis for this anglicized text. I just did some comparison and went through. I started with John and just went through the first 5 chapters of John and noted any differences that I found. And let me just tell you, completely anglicized means very little change. Apparently British English and American English aren't as far apart as you might think. I did find a couple of very small things that you would expect. John 1:47 in the anglicized version, the word is towards with an S at the end. John chapter 1 verse 47, Jesus saw Nathanael coming towards him and said of him, "Behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom there is no deceit." The diadem, the American ESV text says toward with no S at the end, Toward, no S. The no other, as far as I could tell, no other differences in the first 5 chapters of John between the Anglicized text and the American text. I also compared the first 5 chapters of Hebrews, because why not? And again, very few differences with this paper. Thin paper and not easy to do one-handed. Almost had it. There we go. So I compared the first 5 chapters of Hebrews. Again, very few changes. There were 3 places in Hebrews where there were differences. 2 of them are simply the word honor spelled with a U in the Anglicized version, Honour, in Hebrews 3:3 and in Hebrews 5:3, where in the American version it's honor, Honor, without the U. I did a little check through some of the other parts of Scripture and found that color is similarly spelled in the Anglicized version with a UR. So that's expected. So Hebrews 3:3 and Hebrews 5:3 found that. Also in Hebrews 5:3, the same verse, there is the only time I found in my comparisons a change in a word. And that is Hebrews 5:3. Because of this, he is bound to offer sacrifice for his own sins, just as he does for those of the people. Bound is the word in the Anglicized version, which in the diadem here in the American ESV, the word is obligated. He is obligated to offer sacrifices for his own sins. So must be some difference in the way bound or obligated is used in British English versus American English. Not something I was aware of. There may be some other reason for the change, but if they're using the same 2016 base text, it seems like the Anglicized is the reason for that. I just don't know. Maybe someone watching in Great Britain can inform me on that, why that change was necessary. And then I also compared 5 chapters in the book of Isaiah, not the first 5, but we're approaching Advent, so I went for Isaiah 51 through 55. So I again was checking 5 chapters, and only one difference was I able to find between the Anglicized and the American version, and that is in Isaiah 55:2, and that's just in the spelling of labor. Labor in the American, Labour in the Anglicized. Why do you spend your money for that which is not bread, and your labor for that which does not satisfy? So that was the end of my labor in comparing the two. Lovely book. It's a little unusual without the dust jacket to have all this printed on the back. If that's irritating to you, you might want to take that into account. Also, most of the copies you'll find are coming from Great Britain, so you'd have to factor in shipping. I did find an American seller that had a couple of them, again, dinged up, so at discount. But again, jury's out. I'm pleased with the layout. I'm pleased with the font size. I'm pleased the way it lays flat. Includes the expanded Apocrypha. I didn't really focus on that, but it includes not just the 72 books of the, just show you that. Okay, so the apocryphal books included Tobit, Judith, Esther, Wisdom of Solomon, Sirach, Baruch, Letter of Jeremiah, Prayer of Azariah, Susanna, Bel and the Dragon, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Maccabees, 1st and 2nd Esdras, Prayer of Manasseh, Psalm 151. So a wide, broad chunk of apocryphal books that ought to be useful to Orthodox, also Catholics and Protestants. So I give it a thumbs up, let's call it a tentative thumbs up. I'm a little concerned about the thinness of the paper, but I will likely switch to using this. The ESV, I think, has the potential to become the Bible that's acceptable to pretty much all of Christendom. There was probably hope that this New English Bible would fill the same void, but it never really caught on, didn't have the popularity that the ESV has achieved, marketing, I guess. But I do like the New English Bible quite a bit with Apocrypha. Anyway, this has gone on long enough. Hardcover book, beautiful, useful. Again, tentative thumbs up at this point. If you're looking for an ESV with the Apocrypha and maybe have problems with the diadem because of the font size and the busyness of the page, which is the problem for me, this is another option for you if you can find it. Thanks for watching this review today. Hope to see you here again next time.